What's up, guys? SpideySkeens here with SpideySkeens Cosplay. This week, we're going to be making a foam banana. Why, you ask? Some conventions don't let you take your foam prop guns in because they look too realistic because you guys are too good at making them. But if you can't take your gun in, may as well take a banana in. I didn't have one of these bad boys last year, so I walked around as the courier with no gun. Sorry I didn't make a video last week. I decided I wanted to make a video every 2 weeks so that way I can put out a better quality product as opposed to just trying to rush it. I want to put out good stuff. Remember, if you guys like what I'm doing, hit the like button, comment down below if you'd like to see me make anything else, subscribe, and don't forget, thwip the bell. To start out, you're going to need your banana pattern. You can get this from the link in my description. It is free. I found it in one of the many cosplay groups I follow online on Facebook. I glued my template onto a piece of poster board, and then I folded the poster board in half and glued it to itself, just so it was real nice and sturdy and made my life really easy when tracing the pattern onto my EVA foam. When cutting out your template, just take your time, move real slow. It's not a race. If you move quickly, you're more likely to make a mistake and have a jagged edge on your pattern, and that's not going to end out well. There's part one. Now it's time to trace our banana onto some EVA foam. I'm using 6mm EVA foam. It's just real nice and flexible. It's not going to be super thick and I won't have to fight with it. When tracing on the pattern, you want to also make sure that you get all of those little lines. Those lines are attachment points, and you want to make sure you get those in the exact spot they're supposed to be in, so your banana lines up perfectly. After holding the first couple pieces of the banana down and tracing it, I decided to just pin it down with some long pins. It made my life a lot easier, and my hand wasn't in the way. Now that our banana template has been traced onto our EVA foam, it's time to go ahead and cut it out. To cut it out, I like to use an X-Acto knife. You want to cut this out with a slight under bevel, so kind of cut it in with a very slight angle. I'm going to heat my X-Acto knife up with my heat gun. The reason I'm heating it up with a heat gun, it will just make it cut through this EVA foam so much easier. Remember, when cutting this out, just move really slow. There's really absolutely no reason to be fast. Unless you're trying to do this at the last minute. Take your time and work slowly. The slower you work, the better edges you are going to have. The better edges you have, the easier it is going to be to attach the pieces all together in the end. Just a slight angle. Nothing super steep, just a nice slight angle. Now I'm going to cut the rest of these out. So our next step is to apply contact cement along all of these here edges. Use contact cement to attach these bad boys together. When applying the contact cement to the edges of your banana, make sure to do a nice thin layer. Don't put it on too heavy, because if you put too much on at once, it's going to gunk up and you're not going to have a nice seam. It's going to end up tearing apart. You will also want to put 2 coats of contact cement along the seams. Allow 5 to 10 minutes between each coat. After applying your second coat of contact cement, you want to allow 15 minutes for the contact cement to dry before you start attaching pieces together. Now all of our pieces of the banana, all the edges, are now glued, kind of tacky. Now it's time to go ahead and attach them together. So when doing this, make sure to take your time. You really really slow. You want to make sure all these pieces just line up. Just take your time. Don't rush. Just take your time. Make sure each one of those points match up, and your banana will take its form pretty easily. For those of you curious how I know which piece of the banana to attach to which piece, they are labeled on the template, and I just transferred that number over onto my EVA foam as well. So piece edge 4 attaches to edge 4, edge 1 attaches to edge 1, and so forth. There are 8 different pieces, so it's not super complicated, but I do highly suggest putting those numbers on your edges. It will make your life a lot easier. I promise you. Again, really just move slowly and take your time. It's your blah, 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 blah. Your product, your banana, is going to look a lot better in the end. I promise. If you work slow, it will look a lot better than if you rush. After all of the long pieces of the banana are attached, it is time to put on the caps. Go ahead and just stick those right on in there. After attaching all the parts of your banana together, it's time to go ahead and just kind of clean up the seams. I'm going to sand those seams using a Dremel. If you don't have a Dremel, that's all right. You can use sandpaper, a sanding block, a sanding sponge, a sanding stick, anything that can just sand down those edges. I like to use the Dremel just because it's really fast. After I used the Dremel, I went on and used a 120 sanding block and a 320 sanding block just to smooth the edges out even more. It's time to throw on some Kwik Seal. Let's fill in any of those gaps that may have just been missed. When applying the Kwik Seal, I just like to use my finger. It's really quick, really easy. You can wash your hands later. After I do that, take a little bit of water, smooth out the edges. Not the seam. Not a lot of water. The reason for the water is to just get rid of any high points that there may be from putting the Kwik Seal on. Now that my banana, all of its seams and edges are filled in and sanded, I'm going to heat seal it with a heat gun. I heat seal so that way the pores on the EVA foam are closed. Now it is time to Mod Podge. Just start out with a nice thin layer. Doesn't have to be sopping wet. I probably put a little too much on that spot right there, but that's okay. Spread it out. After you apply your first coat of Mod Podge, you want to allow about 15-20 minutes between each coat for it to dry. You can speed that process up with a heat gun. Just be very, very careful not to heat it up too much. You don't want your seams to tear apart. I ended up doing 4 coats of Mod Podge. It just gave it a really nice base to be painted. After you have applied your last coat of Mod Podge and allowed it to dry, it is then time to Plastidip your banana. Plastidip is just a nice finisher. It's kind of like a primer. It also holds everything together, just in case it decides it wants to tear apart. It shouldn't, but just in case. After you apply the Plastidip, you want to allow 8 hours or so for it to dry fully. After allowing your Plastidip to dry, it is then time to paint. I used white as a base coat just because it's light, but I applied multiple coats to cover up that black because it is dark. After applying my base white coat and allowing it to dry, I then moved on to painting it yellow, because bananas are yellow. When applying the yellow paint, I didn't apply it on super heavy for each coat, but I ended up doing 4 or 5 coats of yellow paint just so I got a real nice yellow color. After allowing all 4 coats of the yellow paint to dry, I then proceeded to move on and add some brown spots on the very top of the stem and at the very bottom, because bananas aren't entirely yellow. After I finished those brown spots, I then proceeded to dry brush some brown along all of the seams where we attached the banana together, just to give it that nice angle that a real banana has. Give it a little bit more character, a little bit more depth. After dry brushing on the brown, I proceeded to take a little bit of yellow and dry brush that over any of the brown that I thought was just too dark for my liking. After touching up with the yellow, I then proceeded to add some bruises to the banana because I wanted to add even more character to this thing. You know, if you're handling a banana, it's not going to look perfect. It's going to have bruises all over the place and all that good stuff. So, I wanted it to look real. After adding the bruises, I went through with darker brown and I added some lines just where the banana could have gotten scratched or something. And there you have it. One foam prop banana that you can use to replace your prop firearm at a convention in case they don't let you take it in because it looks too realistic. And if you don't want to use it for that, you can make a bunch of these and have a foam banana fight with your friends and throw them at each other because that's tons of fun. Remember, if you guys like what I'm doing, thwip the like button, comment down below if you'd like to see me make anything else, subscribe, and don't forget, thwip the bell. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. What's up, guys? SpideySkeens here with SpideySkeens Cosplay. This week, we're going to be making a foam banana. Why, you ask? Well, some conventions don't let you take your foam prop guns in because they look too realistic because you guys are too good at making them. But if you can't take your gun in, may as well take a banana in. I didn't have one of these bad boys last year, so I walked around as the courier with no gun. But that's all right. Remember, if you guys like what I'm doing, hit the like button. Comment down below if you'd like to see me make anything else. Subscribe, and don't forget, thwip the bell.